Hey, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
Woke and Free.
Thank you for tuning in to our 173rd episode of Woke and Free. If you've been tuning in every week for Woke and Free Wednesday, you know that Woke and Free is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we are discussing something really interesting, which is, did human life really start in Africa? Before we dive deep into the subject, it's your favorite time of the day, Tasha Monologue. Are you excited?
Probably.
Nice. So first and foremost, for us to continue to grow the podcast and the show for y'all listening, we need you to do the following things. First, go to WokeNFree.com and download this episode. Don't just listen to it, download it through the Podbean app. That is how you can show your greatest support because, you know, download numbers count, but also it's how you're able to join the conversation by putting in your comments, by being able to do that. So please do that because then we can interact with you and you can share your thoughts on the topics that we're talking about every single week. Next, we would love for you to, if you can't download another app, to pick your platform of choice to go and listen and be subscribed to the show on whatever platform you're listening to. So examples include iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're on 30 plus platforms. So go to the listen tab and then pick your platform of choice, and then you can make sure you're subscribed there. Now, of course, we love sharing, absent COVID-19, racism, bigotry, and any of those horrible discriminatory isms. But what is really good to share is Woke and Free. So if you also are not subscribed to the show via email, which you can simply do at WokeNFree.com, please go and do that. And then when you get notified of the new weekly episodes, guess what you can easily do? You can forward that along to your friends and family and tell them, hey, are you subscribed? And you can get the word out that way. Now, when it comes to social media, not only can you talk to us about the episodes and stuff like that, but we're putting out some really fun content, guys. We try to be positive on all fronts. So feel free to engage with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Yes, I said it, TikTok. And Pinterest at Woke and Free. And then lastly, reviews of the show, right? It's not just enough to listen or download or share it, but if you have like 90 seconds, please give us iTunes review on whatever platform you like to be honest. But we really greatly appreciate our 5-star reviews that we get on iTunes, and we're waiting for you to give us some more. Scene end.
Good job.
Thank you.
Each week, we like to share a little bit about us before we dive into the topic for the episode. Last week, we asked, would you rather face your worst fear head on or confess your greatest sins online and it go viral? This week, we're asking, would you rather eat falafel balls or meatballs?
Are you implying something here?
No, I don't know what could be implied from it. I don't see any implications at all.
It sounds freaky and pointless, but okay.
It sounds like meatballs and falafels.
All right. Well, if you want my answer, meatballs, and your answer would be?
That's your answer?
Yes, meatballs.
Well, I don't know what falafel balls are, so my stomach would ask for the meatballs.
Muy bueno.
Yeah, because I don't even know what those are. So
you're creepy.
That's the problem. That makes that one pretty easy.
Okay.
Because I don't, what? And you what?
I can't wait to hear your next sentence. I want to see you do that.
Well, yeah, because no one, I mean, we probably all agree on the origin of meatballs, but the thing is, do we think about the origins of humans in the same manner?
Utter failure. To compare the origin story of human life to the origins of story of meatballs.
Yeah, we all agree on it though. We think meatballs are from one place.
Is that true though?
Maybe. And that's what this episode is. And that's what this episode is touching on. But the best way to put it is did life, and we are referring to human life, yes, begin in Africa?
Perfect. So there's several links, guys, that you'll be able to find in the episode on WokeNFree.com in the episode notes. So make sure that you click on those links so that you too can kind of follow the conversation when it comes to the resources that we're citing here. There was some really interesting conversation going on in this article I found on National Geographic. So let me kind of break it down for you guys. So there was a study in Nature that they're referring to that argues that this oasis known as, forgive me if I say this wrong, guys, Makgadikagada Okavanago wetland was not just any home, but the ancestral homeland for all modern humans today. The researchers studied mitochondrial DNA, genetic material stored in the powerhouse of our cells that is passed from mother to child of current residents across southern Africa. Then they layered the genetic data with an analysis of past climate and modern linguistics, as well as cultural and geographic distributions of local populations. The study's results suggest that shifts in climate allowed branches of the ancient population to spread from the wetland to newly formed zones of green. Thousands of years later, a small population of these wanderers eventually would leave Africa and ultimately inhabit every corner of the world. And the article goes on to say, we all came from the same homeland in southern Africa, cited by Vanessa Hayes of the Garvan Institute of Medical Research in Australia, who led the new research. And then article continues to speak to the fact that the hominin family tree has deep roots in Africa. The earliest fossil of our genus Homo yet found is a 2.8 million year old jaw fragment uncovered in East Africa. Our species Homo sapiens didn't appear till fairly far up the tree, branching off at least 260,000 years ago. Where exactly in Africa that happened, however, remains up for debate. Now, the article has more that they go on to, but I think that pretty much speaks to everything that I thought that was really fascinating. Yeah. What about you? What did you find when it comes to answering the question of the origin story of human life?
I mean, what I found is interesting. On history.com, they had an interesting proposition made by some scientists. And the article does say, according to the generally accepted story of human evolution, the human lineage split from that of apes about 7 million years ago in Africa. Mm-hmm. Hominins, like you were talking about, the early humans, are believed to have stayed put in Africa until about 2 million years ago, when they then migrated first to Asia and then Europe. And a team of scientists from the University of Tübingen in Germany and the University of Toronto in Canada argued that the earliest human ancestor emerged in Europe, actually, not Africa, around 7.2 million years ago, or 200,000 years earlier than was previously thought. The researchers based their bold hypothesis largely on the analysis of two fossils, which they think are the remains of our human ancestors. Other experts claim that their analysis of just the jawbone and tooth are not enough to make the connection. So I found, like, you see there are people contesting the origins of humans, because humans are closely related to the apes. So it's like, where do you know, like,
the break off?
Yeah. When does it, who's to say that's the beginning of it? And where did it's, so my question would be, is like, where did the first ape come from, kind of thing?
Africa.
But even, so if that happens, then everything is moot. Then it doesn't matter what cause then it's like, okay. But the problem is like we find new fossils all the time, but as it's been happening, every fossil we find, the oldest ones are in Africa.
Yeah, it keeps pointing back to Africa.
So this new group, I mean, they're not getting much support. So we'll see how that thing goes.
Plays out.
But
okay.
That's another person's point of view.
So to kind of belabor a little bit more on that point, do you think, like, did you find any additional information around the original story of man being accepted or not accepted by scientists in the community?
I think it's changing as the new fossils are being discovered, and people are making these hypotheses about it. And a New Scientist article, actually two of them, state that Homo sapiens were thought to have emerged from, you mentioned before, East Africa, roughly 200,000 years ago. But some have long suspected that the roots of our species are deeper, given that Homo sapiens, like fossils in South Africa, have been tentatively dated at 260,000 years old.
Interesting.
And one of these articles' subtitles was "Forget the simple out of Africa idea of how humans evolved." A huge array of fossils and genome studies has completely rewritten the story of how we came into being. But the problem with that article, I couldn't find any more information on it, because it's like cut off. You need to subscribe to get the rest of the information. Gotcha. So I don't, like, I just read that kind of like summary from them. And then I also saw another article from the scientists that said, now we know that there were probably at least 3 different kinds of hominins in Eurasia, the Neanderthals and the Denisovans thrived for hundreds of thousands of years before Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa, and at times even interbred with the other hominin groups. But it's again, this doesn't tell you the Neanderthals, the oldest fossils, they were actually found in Africa. So that's still, I mean, I don't know where I'm not sure how they're getting that information. I can't back that up because, the article didn't go into that.
Well, yeah. So what I found in a 2011, I believe it's 2011 NPR article was that for many years, the article says anthropologists and archaeologists believed that Asia held the answers to their questions about the origin of mankind. So when a set of controversial hominid remains were discovered in Africa in the early 20th century, it took a while for scholars to accept that they may have been wrong. In Born in Africa, author Martin Meredith details the battles, contempt, and fraud of the research for the origins of human life. Meredith tells NPR's Neil Conan that Charles Darwin was the first to actually speculate that mankind actually evolved in Africa. Darwin didn't really have any evidence for that, Meredith says, but he figured that since gorillas and chimpanzees were humans' nearest known relatives at the time, and they're most likely to be found in Africa, so too should early humans, which is kind of a logical deduction, one could say.
Yeah.
And still, for about 50 years, Darwin's idea was summarily dismissed. It was only during the 20th century that the evidence on the ground began to emerge that this piece of Darwin's speculation was likely to prove to be accurate, Meredith said. Then, the article goes on, the evidence emerged in fits and starts and was often disputed by those who still believed Asia was the key to the story of the origin of mankind. Everybody was looking for what was called at the time the missing link, Meredith says. And in the late 19th century, German biologist Ernest Haeckel theorized that the missing link lay between ape and human populations. His scheme of things was that there couldn't have been just a singular move from being an ape to a human. There had to be somebody who occurred in between, Meredith says. So at the turn of the 20th century, he says that there was a huge frenzied effort to find the missing link. The way was open for fraudsters to claim having found elements of bones and tools and evidence of ancient humans in southern England, wow. Meredith says. One so-called discovery became known as the Piltdown Man hoax, and according to Meredith, the people behind it were students of the going theories about what the missing link might look like. Their specimen had a fairly large brain and an ape-like jaw, essentially a mixture of ingredients. They constructed this so-called missing link, and it more or less distorted science in Britain for a period of 40 years, Meredith says.
Wow.
And because scientists believed it, they dismissed any evidence that didn't fall in line. And then he goes on to say, it's extraordinary the way in which a whole scientific endeavor can be manipulated in such a way that the real truth, as it were, is hidden for decades, Meredith says. So when Raymond Dart discovered a small-brained early hominid, Australopithecus africanus in South Africa in 1924. He brought it to England expecting to make a significant contribution to science, but that's not exactly how it worked out. According to Meredith, Dart's hominid discovery was laughed out of court. The scientific establishment believed that the key element in any human ancestor must have been a large brain. They believed that the brain led the way in human evolution, Meredith says. Dart's discovery went unvalidated until the 1950s. It's an example of how scientists cling on to a particular school of thought, Meredith says, even though there's evidence which is being to contradict them. So wow. To speak to that article, and again, you can find all of our links in the episode notes at WokeNFree.com. There just seems to be this kind of just like, I don't know if it's bias per se, but it's just like, how could life begin in Africa?
I know, that seemed kind of strange. They were trying to disprove
they would rather create evidence and try to purport that has to be the reason. And instead of just kind of looking at what's actually happening and see the fossils in front of you.
Yeah, they're not looking at their findings. They're finding all the oldest fossils in Africa, and they're just like, oh, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't go with what we want. That seems so interesting. Like, because I think maybe it creates this fear or some other thing. I mean, we can definitely talk to it, but it seems like people are resistant of the idea. Yeah, they don't like the idea of life beginning in Africa. They're okay with all the resources being there, but not human life beginning there. That's a little too much.
Yeah, that's like too... I guess it's too... It makes everything real for what we do in the world we live in, just how idiotic
Yeah, because even though it makes a lot of sense, it's all the other places
Yeah.
that we're living. We don't have a lot of resources here, but go to Africa.
It's the richest
that continent has everything
on the earth, and has continued to be, and will continue to be.
It has vital
and had all the animals that were related to there.
Yeah.
So why, if we were related to them and they were born there, how the heck could we not be born there?
Because we're different. Some people don't think of us as an animal species.
Aren't we 97% related to like a chimpanzee or something like that?
Of course, because we're made out of the same molecules and atoms, right?
Like
so of course we're not
93% to a gorilla, something like that.
Yeah, we can't be that different. It's just how you put the genetics together, right? The DNA, how you combine it, Gattaca, that kind of thing. We've been talking about the origins and stuff, but really, what is the ultimate impact of the origin story of mankind?
So, this is, I think, kind of like an opinion question. And so my opinion is of the following. If life began in Africa, then that would imply that human beings are all of African descent, genetically speaking. So that the world that we live in, where we have racial divide, where we have people harming, discriminating, actively, inactively, consciously, unconsciously harming people of African descent, black and brown bodies around this world, would literally be insane. Because if everyone is a descendant of Africa, then that would mean that we are all genetically a part of this black and brown community. So when you continue to hurt and harm and discredit and destroy a community, you are destroying oneself. So I think that's why it might be easier to resist that idea within the scientific community, much less the public community, because I've had conversations in life where people are like, oh, that's so interesting. So you think that we began in Africa? Like, it's not a normalized
everybody doesn't even
sentiment
believe that.
Amongst just, the average person. So I think because it's too scary, right? I think it's too, because it creates the world we live in is completely illogical then. Because how can you hate on the same people that you're from?
How can you demonize a continent, and that's actually where everybody comes from?
That's our motherland. How could you hate and harm a people that you are a part of? It doesn't make sense.
It makes it harder.
It's completely illogical. It's self-harm, really. It's self-sabotage. So I think it's easier to try to resist the idea so that you can continue to play games and do what you need to do. If, you happen to be a part of a community that intentionally wants to hurt. And not everyone, it's not a racial thing. It's literally just communities. There are people who are wanting peace amongst other communities. And if you happen to be a part of that community, you can continue to do what you do without any kind of, guilt. But if you actually recognize that you too were a black and brown person, then this would be challenging. And you could not have things like the KKK. You could not be a neo-Nazi. You could not do things like that. So that would be illogical.
Yeah, I think some of these people, they don't... They believe in a different origin of humans.
Yes.
They think there was, so some people, I don't want to offend people here, but there's some people feel that God made two species of humans or something.
You are now listening to WokeNFree.
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 WokeNFree!
A podcast about being real and honest.
And they feel that a God being exists and did that. They somehow created two separate humans, and that was preached for a very long time. And I think there's people that still believe that. I don't think the KKK members would be against that. They would think they were part
they believe in
of their
Aryan
own start.
Superiority, so they
might think that from a different line. Yeah, they think that there's one set of people and another set of people.
That would be absurd.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of like there's that underlying issue that people aren't looking at the science and they're thinking back to their religious ideas that make them feel superior to others, kind of thing.
Because they need it, right? They need that validation for their belief system and for their actions, right?
Otherwise, then you can't. Because I think
what are you standing on?
That's how the actions are taken. They're not just taken like, oh, I'm just going to do. They
have a fundamental.
Yeah, they have a belief system to help support that because it makes it easier to do wrong, right?
Absolutely.
You have a belief system, no matter if you're doing the worst of acts, as long as you have a belief system, it makes it easier to do.
Any type of horror.
That's what I like about science. Science isn't about belief; it's about things that other people can independently recognize. Yeah. So,
it's repeatable.
It's repeatable. But as we see, though, as you were mentioning before, science even tries to be kind of religious in its ways of not want to let in new ideas, and that's not a good scientist.
But that's because
scientist
people,
has to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah, that's behaviorism. That's a fault of man.
Yeah, people mess up and say that. Oh,
and we get so rigid, and we can only believe one way, and until it's like so evident that you have to change your belief system. So
I'm open to being proven wrong. I like that. That's great. That means I learn more from it. I'm not going to just be like, oh, this is how it is. There's nothing else that could happen.
I enjoy feeling right, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm not always right. I mean, even though sometimes I usually am. But I enjoy understanding moment. Okay, you know what's up. Happy wife, happy life.
So
Thank you.
No, I'm not questioning about the usually right. I'm questioning how you get so excited. You're happy about being right.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I think that's
that's the Virgo in me though. That's like, yep, I'm right. Thank you.
See, that's how those scientists feel. They want to feel like they're right. And then Africa comes back and be like, here we are, son.
No. Well, yeah, no.
Here's where your peoples are from.
But that's, and I find it, for me, I guess as a black person, I find it comforting to try to understand and I want to spend the rest of my life getting to know my historical and ancestral background and connection to Africa, because I accept that Africa is my homeland. Yes, my initial pit stop for my family was Jamaica, but we were not just born and raised in Jamaica. We came from Africa. So what part of Africa am I from? Like, all of that good stuff. So I find it exhilarating, but I see the other side of the coin where that's totally terrifying, right? Like Germany, Italians, the idea that is not their actual homeland, that could be very, very frustrating, especially if you don't look right and connect to that continent.
Yeah, they don't realize evolution's a real thing, right? They're like, how come we don't evolve now? Well, that took place over hundreds of thousands of years.
We'd have to wait that same time.
Like, they don't realize how long humans have been around. So that's the thing here. But I think it's important, but ultimately, I actually don't think it would help, to be honest.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think people will still cling to that stupidity idea of there's two separate,
like
some immaculate creation kind of thing where because there's people
that's not our people.
There's people that don't even believe in evolution.
Well,
so it's like that. So people like them, they don't care about this origin story.
They don't believe in evolution.
They're going to just say that we were immaculately put there.
Well, that there's fundamental religious beliefs that say that a deity
just created
was a
out
part
of
the creationism.
Himself or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever that means, it's just it's up there. But that's what I'm saying.
Don't mock people.
I know, I'm trying not to, but I'm just saying you have this. I mean, I can have ideas too.
Understand that side of the coin as well.
But we can make up ideas too.
All right, play nice.
But what's wrong with? I just don't understand why their idea is more validated than an idea me and you can come up with right now.
The alternative to their idea, it invalidates other principles, right? So if there is no deity creating humankind, then that also unravels all the other things connected to that deity, and you have no religion. I'm
not trying to go up against that. I'm just going against the people that don't believe in evolution, kind of thing.
Because they're believing in the connection.
They're believing in some kind of this was created by some deity.
Yeah.
And that to me that's just an idea. It's not anything that's...
But so it's more, right? So if you're religious, then you understand that idea is a part of your faith practice, and it's also your connection to that deity. So it's not enough to just be like, don't believe in that deity, because it's like, well, you're trying to circumvent how they live their life on a daily basis, and the principles attached to that deity.
You can believe in the deity and still believe in...
The whole world is around that deity.
But you can believe in evolution and still believe in the deity. You can say the deity created things through evolution. I think that sounds like an interesting episode. People do. There's many Christians that believe in evolution.
See, most scientific people I know are not...
But there are some people that don't.
Super religious.
Well, yeah, now I think now people are straying away, but...
religious people are not super... into the evolution.
I mean, I can't say the number, but there's Christians who believe in evolution.
I know. I don't think I've ever
still
met any,
their religion.
So I would be fascinated.
Really, I used to be a Christian and believe in evolution.
But you didn't believe in the deity in the way that
No, I was a straight up Christian. That's not you're saying anything you say. I was a straight up Christian.
So you 100% believed in God, the holy, the whole divine.
Yes. I did believe that at some point.
Yes,
why wouldn't I? I was taught that. Yes, I was taught that. That's why.
But they contradict each other. So how could you?
No, they don't. No, they don't.
So
contradict
God
each
created
other.
man is completely different from Big Bang. So how can you?
Well, no, that's not true. They're not separate. Because here's the thing. So God created Big Bang, and then from Big Bang,
that's not what's said in Christianity, though.
Well, no, but if you have to read the book yourself. If you read the book, it's open interpretation.
How you had to make a deduction for you to.
But either way, it's
make those two. But either
way, it's an interpretation.
Completely contradictory.
It's an interpretation, though.
So you had to draw that line. But that's you choosing to do that and be more modern.
But everybody has to interpret it, because literally the book. If you go back to the olden words it used, it's not what you think it says.
Yes, but again,
it doesn't equate to now.
They cut off the line of interpretation, right? And in their mind, God created man
I
is
don't think that's
completely
true.
different than...
It depends on the Christian you are.
I mean, yeah, it depends on the Christian, but I know I've had conversations where people say, if you believe that
there's
God
some people
created
that
man,
say,
you cannot believe in Big Bang.
There's
two separate
some people
theories.
say that, but you can make it work. You can make it where
but you
God made
your
Big
religion
Bang.
doesn't, because it's not preached that way.
Well,
and it's not taught that way.
It depends on who it is, because like I
Yeah.
said, it's different sects of Christianity. Not all Christians believe Big Bang is a farce like that. I mean, that's not what and some Christians do believe in evolution too.
But they're juxtaposed. You have to find
technically
a way to
they don't. Technically they don't
they
mix,
don't
but
connect.
you can make it connect though. That's all I'm saying.
You can, but that's on you. That's not profoundly
on who, though?
across the.
But remember, everybody's interpreting
same thing
the text.
as Big Bang, right? I've never heard as from the scientific community like trying to draw a connection between how Big Bang happened in connection to existence.
Well, no, that's
of deities.
separate. No, that's separate
because they can't because you can't prove God, right? Or I don't know.
But
where you stand on that, but
I mean, you're trying to. Science is not mixing with religious texts. There's no point to it. Which is funny though, because I mentioned on the other episode, science's job were to help find out more about the world for the priests. And
it would be great if
that's what's funny. There was a point. There was a point where
yeah.
science was not separate from religion, where that's. But now we stand differently, right? Now we have religion,
it's a different community,
and then we have sides. But they used to stand side by side. Now it's kind of like it's up in the air. But because of that, that's why I don't think this origin story matters, because people have their beliefs, and their beliefs don't go off of like factual findings that may occur. And that's literally what it is.
Personally, though, do you find in any way it impacts your life? Do you feel more empowered by that, by knowing that, like, if you believe what scientists are suggesting, that human life began in Africa, how does that make you feel?
It doesn't.
Doesn't exhilarate you?
No, it doesn't exhilarate me. Because what exhilarates me more is not that not that humans started there, but I'm more interested in like where the first society was. So it's kind of like, all right, great, humans were found in Africa, but they weren't really doing much. They didn't use tools, but I'm more interested in the first I'm interested in the Homo sapiens, because by that point, humans were more evolved. Africa, right? Yeah, they were. Yeah, but even older humans were all the remains so far have been found. Neanderthals though, because those are another old version of humans, and they they interbred with Homo sapiens, and now we have our modern day Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in the really generic ones. Like they're saying that missing link between the ape and the human.
Yeah.
Like that one, that could have begun anywhere. I don't care about that, because it doesn't mean anything.
But it logically had to happen in Africa. I mean, I don't know.
It probably did. Because all I would go is, where was the first ape? All right.
Yeah,
the first human was probably going to be there too. That's where because what are you saying then? I mean, the ape started in Africa. They went to like Asia, and then in Asia, they started changing. And
how would they have
And then they came back to Africa, started changing, and then they went back to Asia. It sounds weird. It more sounds like, all right, everybody's in Africa because all the resources are there, all the animals are there, and then they're like, oh, we got a lot of resources, now we can travel,
and they can,
that's
really
that kind of makes that kind of just makes sense. Like everything else doesn't make any sense, because there's no resources in Greenland, right? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I would retract that.
I don't know what resources are there.
So say that. Just don't eliminate the idea of
maybe
resources.
they might have oil, but I mean they don't have rare metals there.
Let's keep it moving.
That you can find in Africa.
Keep it moving. Play dirty, man. You play dirty.
I'm just saying what it is.
You just play too dirty.
I'm just telling you. I mean, we don't hear that much. We don't hear much rough and stuff.
I'll
about
pray
that.
for you.
I'm just trying to tell you different things. Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario 1. Lucy was a skeletal remain of a female hominin fossil found in 1974 in Ethiopia, aged at 3.2 million years old. She was most likely tree-dwelling and capable of walking upright. Would you consider her to be human based on those capabilities alone?
Well, that's an interesting question. So just to be confirmed, you're talking about the real Lucy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Lucy, I remember learning about this growing up. I think that definitely is based on some of the traits that you mentioned, that it sounded like there's a connection between her and her abilities and human abilities. So I mean, scientifically, it's been a while since I just think with just my science side of my brain. I would say, I don't know, like, to be fair, I think when you try to make scientific deductions, you try to not minimize the factors that go into the assessment, but like try to get as many factors as possible to be able to say, you know, if to be human means you have 12 categories of things that need to happen or take place naturally, then you would want to find those corresponding 12 things in the ancient human, right? And Lucy in this stance. So I think that just mentioning those couple of things, I think, is not necessarily enough in and of itself, but it definitely lends for a kind of a bias to be like, oh yeah, she sounds like she was like gonna be a dope human. Like, cause I love Lucy, cause I love Lucille Ball.
Oh, and right. That's a good reason.
Yes.
Her name alone.
Yes, her name alone is obviously why she was just like super cool. Your thoughts, sir?
My thoughts is almost like I was saying before. I don't consider her to be human because if she didn't have any tools, I don't consider her human. That's
so the
my
modern
final
day,
standing. But that's just me.
Okay.
But technically, she is part of hominin, and we're part of that same. Like, I think that's species.
There was a genetic connection to her.
But you know,
right?
I don't know the genetic order, but I think that's part of the same species not species, but the
within
genus.
the gene,
maybe it's the genus.
Genome,
no, not genome. There's literally.
Oh, you're saying there's a genetic connection to her.
Yes,
yeah,
like
okay.
She's related to us, like,
but not pretty. But she's not a modern human.
She's not modern though. Yeah, but she's not.
So she's hominin. What is
hominin?
Hominin. Then
yeah.
Okay.
So she is like she's down the line. Yeah, I don't know what it's called, like the order of species. Yeah. I'd have to look it up. I forgot. I should have looked at what it is, but either way, yeah, she's related to us. But I don't know. Like, I don't consider her
like
human.
Our fifth cousin.
Because I think that's unfair. Because it's like if she was here today, you know, she couldn't browse the internet.
All right, let's play nice. Let's stop playing dirty.
Like, Lucy, here's a tablet. Lucy would try to eat it.
Why are you rude? You're so rude.
Lucy, stop eating that tablet.
Carry on.
To tell her. Scenario 2. Rohit is a devout researcher who has found that the oldest human fossils are found in regions of Africa, but has heard that some people think other forms of humans might have existed on other continents before the migration out of Africa. Should he be concerned about these new talks, or just stay true to his knowledge?
So this kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier, and I think to your point, to be a good scientist means that you want to kind of uncover the truth at whatever cost, even if it means unraveling an existing idea or theory that you have adhered to for a day or 10 years or 100 years. At the end of the day, science is science, and whenever new discoveries are made, you have to fully go into that and fully look into it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to debunk anything you believed before, but you have to at least be open to understanding what is the information, how is it being verified, are there other sources that kind of support and validate the new research? But yeah, you should never as a scientist or even as a person just be so rigid that you could only say this is the one way and that's the end. Because if that was the case, our world would look and feel very different if people refuse to open up their minds and hearts. So he should be open.
Yeah, I don't think he should be concerned, but like you were saying, he needs to be open for research. Otherwise, I don't think he's a true researcher. If he just finds like what he wanted to... If you find something that agrees with your opinion and you're fine with it, and you don't want to look for other opposing points of view,
he would be a biased.
I think
researcher.
that's pretty crazy.
You don't want to discredit his livelihood, but I would say he's a problematic researcher, biased.
I wouldn't say he's not a researcher. Instead,
yeah, that's super judgmental, and
but that's messed up for him to say.
And
that
it doesn't mean he doesn't
nothing
have a
else
job,
exists.
like Jesus.
Well, no, he may have a job, but he's not qualified, is what I would say.
Wow, 2021. Let's work on judgment, guys. let's work on the judgment.
Because that's messed up. He's being judgy. He's saying my judgment is the best.
But that doesn't mean you're like saying, oh, like you're just a bum on the street. Like you have nothing. Like,
no, not a bum, but he needs to he has to reevaluate his style of researching.
Why he's what brought him, like what is the foundation that made you a researcher? And hopefully it was your pursuit and passion for knowledge. And so you can never abandon that. Right? You have to continue to always learn and evolve. Yeah.
It's not just about faith.
Word.
Scenario 3. Savalina wants to squash the debate of where life originated. She was appalled to learn that most sequenced genomes are of European origin, with fewer than 2% coming from Africans. She is wondering what is the best way she can prove life started in Africa, And that is the end of the story.
Okay, then. Interesting. I don't even want to ask why she's appalled. I'm just going to leave that be, because I think that something crazy will come out of your mouth.
No, but, but I mean, you think that's okay that most of the genomes are coming from Europeans and only 2% from Africans?
So she's appalled because she thinks that's false, right? And she thinks that's
she thinks that's the wrong thing. They need to be sequencing genomes of more types of people.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I think that what she has to do is kind of probably put together like a team of people that can work with her in getting more research and information so that the sequencing stuff is not just one group of people or one group area of the world, but that we expand upon, especially in the fact that human life really began in Africa.
Yeah, so when did she
start there and really kind of look there and kind of do the deep dive. So she's probably going to have to, I think create a team of people that can help her with that endeavor, because sometimes just going up once on your own can be very challenging, but it's harder a community is more likely to hear out multiple people than just one person kind of screaming bloody murder.
Yeah, all right. That's definitely a good avenue that she could take. I think that she needs to voice this information, because I don't think most people know that. Most people don't really know what's going on in terms of genetics and what researchers are doing. So I think she should just expose what the researchers are doing.
Take it to the press. Nice.
Yeah, just so they know that, all right, all the research is being put into only one group of people, and everybody else is being left out. So
gotcha.
I think she should focus on that, and then other people can help join on this endeavor of kind of like expanding the research to include everybody, and especially where life began. I mean, that to me is nuts. Doesn't make sense. And maybe she can start a non-for-profit to help, make things right.
Yeah, I like this suggestion of kind of connecting to the press, because to be honest, if the press were kind of writing stories about some of the atrocities that have happened, throughout history and throughout parts of the world, maybe those atrocities could have been circumvented or even not as bad as they ended up being, right? But the lack of knowledge and the lack of kind of knowing what's going on really allows a lot of dirt and a lot of shady stuff to just continue to prosper, and it's to the detriment of humankind. So
yeah.
Take it to the press. Always be willing to share a story, because this is how we improve the world. These are hard conversations, but these are conversations that have to be had. So I like it.
True.
Wow. We are at that time again. It is coming to the end of our 173rd episode of Woke and Free. Quite the episode discussing, did human life really start in Africa? Will we leave you hanging for what our next episode will be about? Drumroll, please.
On our next episode, we will be discussing 2021 Woke and Free predictions. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for Woke and Free Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show, we pretty much have a full packed year for 2021, but we can definitely make adjustments if you have really compelling stories and platforms to share with our audience. So best way to do that is to hit us up on our contact us page at WokeNFree.com. So that is WokenFree.com. When it comes to social media, like I said before, always feel free to connect with us, guys. We love good conversations, funny conversations, and even random conversations. So hit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok, guys, at WokeNFree. And then, of course, collaborations, right? We're always down for collabs. If you're interested in an ad, if you're interested in creating something special for your business or your platform, hit us on our contact us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for Woke and Free Wednesdays. Remember, Woke and Free is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.